We're going to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. Present are council members Frazier, Cost, Bubb, Blake, and Marmee. First item on the agenda is consideration of an ordinance amending an ordinance passed on September 17th, 2018, providing for the issuance of not exceed $5 million of bond anticipated notes in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of replacement of water main and service lines and all necessary appurtenance, including fittings, and to provide additional funds to pay for the other waste system improvements and declaring an emergency.
This legislation was passed in September, allowing us to issue bonds for improvements to the water lines around the square and some things done at the water plant. And we're renewing this for just 6 months because we want to issue a revenue bond, and I explained that before. What happened is, for some reason, the incorrect interest rate was put into the legislation that was passed in September, so this just corrects it.
Motion.
Second. I have a motion by Frazier, second by Bubb. Any questions and or discussion?
So, just for the record, if you don't mind. 3% is what was approved in the previous, 3.5% is what it is now? Is that what the change
It
was?
should have been 3.5 in the earlier one.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development a one-year use of funds action plan along with the application for fiscal year 2019 federal community development block grant funds as required by 24 CFR Part 91.220 for various programs related to housing and community development.
This is our annual Cdbg legislation. In 2018, the city received $754,868. We used that figure as a projection for 2019. We think that's a fair figure to use because this year we did get a slight increase, so we're going to go with that as our baseline.
Motion.
I have a motion by Frazier, second by Cost. Questions and or discussion? Mr. Frazier.
So what are the next steps after the legislation gets approved by council? Do you fill out an application that goes to them, or what's the process?
Well, yeah, there's a large application that we submit every year. We're not allowed to submit it until Congress releases the allocation amounts. But what we do is, because we're an early grantee, which means we start technically January 1st, even though the money doesn't come through till the end of the year, we have to have everything in place by November 15th. And then what I do is the application's already put together, and then we wait on them. In the interim, then, we do like the environmental reviews on what we're proposing to do. We try and get everything ready so that when the allocation amount is announced, our application goes right in. We've got it timed so all of the components that are needed to proceed the execution of an activity are done. So.
Okay. Perfect.
Any other questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $763.13.
This is money that was obtained through the sale of equipment on gov deals from the fire department. They're requesting that money be put into their machinery and equipment account.
Motion. Second.
A motion by Bubb, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion?
I have a question.
Frazier.
Do we know what the equipment is that we're trying to purchase, or is it just gonna be sitting there until we have a need?
Sold equipment.
No, I know, we're putting money into it, right? Is there?
Machinery and equipment account,
Yeah, is there anything that
it
we're
will
going
either
for?
go to fix something or buy something new if it's not
Okay,
used
so
by
nothing
the
planned
end
for
of
the
the
money
year.
right now, just putting it in the
Probably
account?
not, no.
Okay.
Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $925.
Same thing, sale of fire equipment. This will be used towards a set of turnout gear, I assume, for the fire department, an extra set of gear.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bub, second by Frazier. Questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. And the final item on the agenda is a request for appropriation in the amount of $7,600.
This is termination, sick, vacation, and comp for Dave Bardsley, who's retiring effective Friday. He spent a lot of years at Newark High School doing us a lot of good up there. He's decided to hang it up.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Frazier.
I would request that you expedite this as you normally do.
Yes, it is on there as being expedited. Any further questions and or discussion on this one?
I have one.
Yes.
How long was he at the high school, do you know?
At least 20 years. I want to say 21 or 22. He's leaving with 25, 26 years, and we only worked the street a few years together before he went to the high school.
That's crazy. Thank you.
Any other questions and or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Next up is capital improvements.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Capital Improvements Committee to order. Those present are myself, Fennel, Hall, Rath, and Labutus. First up, we've got Resolution 1885, appropriation of the unappropriated balance of the 335 Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $49,000 for, is that the right one? Fourth floor renovations and other building improvements.
Right. If you, Mr. Chair, I put up another capital improvements request form that I'd like to go through, and then maybe somebody could make a motion to substitute this one for what we have there. There's been some changes since Thursday, and what we have is we have $129,000 left in capital improvements for the calendar year 2018. And at the end of the year, each year, this time, we kind of look for ways, all right, how are we going to spend the capital improvement dollars, and what are the best ways to spend them for the most benefit to the city. So the first item of the $129,000, we selected $80,000 to go into maintenance of streets. If you go down there, they go spot work of paving, sidewalks, curbs, and alleys. I would just like it to say paving, sidewalks, curbs, and alleys, because that dollars could go into our paving program for the spring of next year, in addition to some additional work where needed. The second item is $34,000 for maintenance of building and grounds. If any of you have been on the fourth floor and looked at the carpet and looked at the wall coverings, and if you look at the lights and the ceiling tile, what we're going to do there is exactly what we did over here. We went to LED lights, which is a savings for the city. We're going to change out the wall tiles. We're going to paint the floors, and we're going to put new flooring down similar to like what we have in the foyer there on the second floor. We originally had a quote of $50,000 to do that. That was by a contractor. We're going to do it in-house and have a significant amount of savings by doing it in-house. The only part that will be out is we'll have Weekly Electric do the lights, but we're going to do the ceiling tiles, we're going to do the walls and things of that nature. The next two items is vehicles. For 10,500, I've been working with Nick and Chief Connor. One of the things that when I was on council that Doug Marmy and I always talked about was we were always concerned when an EMS vehicle was going on a run and then the backup vehicle was a fire engine, $1 million engine at a gallon of gas per mile. So they're going to buy a chase vehicle. And Nick, if you want to talk about it a little bit, let them know how they're going to do this. This is something the chief, Nick, and I have been working on, and it'll be kind of a change, a little bit of a change.
It will be. Nick Simmons, Newark Fire Department. Chief Connors assigned me the physical resources, so I tend to specialize in everything that's stuff, physical things, buildings, vehicles, etc. So in conversation with the chief, we thought it would be a good idea to try a new response model where we put in 2 people into basically an SUV. We have one as a command car. The police have them, like the Explorer Interceptors in particular. And so an EMS vehicle goes out to a call. They realize they need some extra hands. Instead of taking, which would be the most expensive piece of equipment, probably vehicle-wise in the city, an $800,000 ladder truck, we're going to take a $34,000 SUV with 2 people in it and go assist them. We think that will extend the life of that ladder truck significantly. We've already reduced it quite a bit by reducing the types of runs it goes on. Now we're going to try to reduce it even further and get the maximum lifespan out of that vehicle. And this is the way we propose to do it.
Great. Mr. Rath.
Thanks for coming up and explaining this to us. So if you have a squad that goes on a run, and then you have 2 people that follow that squad or go to that squad for that run to assist, and then you have a fire call who's driving a truck.
There's 1 person left to drive that vehicle. Unless there is one of probably 2 or 3 different natured calls, like a cardiac arrest, where they know they're going to need all 3 people from that vehicle, the driver will stay with the vehicle. So in that instance...
and that driver could drive that vehicle alone?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Legally and safely?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And the 2 people that would be in the SUV would meet that driver with the vehicle wherever that fire is.
And then their fire equipment is in the vehicle or in the ladder truck?
In the vehicle with them.
Okay.
So they could get dressed and be ready. If they beat the fire apparatus there, they could be dressed, ready to go. That fire vehicle pulls up, and they can start pulling off hose and getting to work. We haven't worked out all the particulars of what we're going to put in the SUV yet. Obviously, we're going to have some EMS supplies. We'll have basic fire gear, maybe their air packs, maybe a water extinguisher.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just my lack of understanding. So if I ask a goofy question, I apologize. Thank you for indulging me with the answer and not making it look goofy. But I'm assuming that a firefighter has his gear that he wears to a fire, and that is his gear and doesn't belong to anybody else.
That is correct.
So if I'm that firefighter and I'm at the fire station and I have the potential of going in an SUV chasing an ambulance or in a ladder truck to a fire, but no call's been made, where's my gear? See, this is just my ignorance. So.
I would say if it were me, and some of my staff was asking me, where do I put it? I would say, put it by the fire vehicle. Because if you need your fire gear, you're going to leave here on a fire truck, and you're going to need to have that gear on. If you put it by the SUV, you're going on a medical call. you don't need the fire gear, you just need to take it with you. So you pick it up from the fire truck, walk it over to the SUV, put it in the SUV, and go on your way.
That's pretty easy to do.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have it laid out in a way that it's either easy to put on or easy to pick up and move.
Okay. Thank you for indulging my ignorance.
It's no bad question.
Any other questions from the committee? Please.
Stephen Smith, 237 Violet Court, Newark, Ohio. I guess I'm confused. I have a printout date for the Capital Improvements Committee for October 11th. I don't know if that's the most
Yeah, I was just about to clarify that.
Okay. If this is an other items at discretion of the chair item,
No, this is, I read section 2 first, which was appropriation for $49,000. The printout I had didn't have section 1. I was just about to address that, sir.
well, I guess the point that piqued my interest was maintenance of streets, curbs, alleys, and sidewalks. And I've brought this point up before about sidewalks along Reddington Road near Ramona Boulevard, and there is no sidewalk there. There is a school bus stop there. Especially during the winter, snow and ice gets plowed up to the area where the children wait for school buses, and I see children walking in the street to get to their school bus stop. And I think this is a problem that needs to be addressed. I don't know if this is in here or not. I don't see anything that leads me to believe that one way or the other. And I guess as I'm listening to this, I'm not seeing the discussion that we're going through addressed in this printout. Maybe I'm missing something.
So I'd like to, if I could, bring Director Rhodes back up to address some of those concerns. And I guess I'll just add, as he steps up to the podium here, I know there's a number of areas in the city we'd like to expand sidewalks and add to our sidewalks and improve pedestrian.
Important issue, particularly in my neighborhood.
Sure.
The bottom two items that I'm asking to be added or the legislation to be amended came up after the 12 o'clock cutoff on Thursday. Yeah, we were, Nick and I and the chief were talking about this vehicle that would follow EMS squads, and we were looking around to see exactly how much money we had or didn't have. And it's about a $35,000 vehicle, and we're about $10,500 short. So we're taking that out of the original building maintenance and ground dollars. And then when I met with Barbara Gilks this morning in regards to the FEMA grant that they got for a washer and dryer for Station 2, I got my matching share of $4,500 that was needed because of the reduced amount that we received from the FEMA grant. And that was something Barbara and I spoke about this morning. So that's why I came up with the amended, the discussion again on the vehicle, the share that we would need came up after Thursday, that came up on Friday.
If I could interrupt you for just a moment,
Sure.
just to clarify. So we've got two sections on the legislation. I read section 2 first because again, my printout was incorrect. And we'll circle back to issue 1 or section 1. So the section 2 is an appropriation for $49,000.
That's the one, yes.
And so are you proposing then that we're adding the fire department backup vehicle and Station 2 FEMA matching share for the laundry dryer?
Yes.
Are we adding that to section 2 or to section 1?
To section 2. Or you can simply replace the capital improvements form with this one and call it 18-85B. You can do it either. You could do it either way. It's your choice on how you'd like to do that. But I wanted it to kind of be in a clean form and pass it out to the committee.
Right.
And just to mention, the bottom two items were identified after the 12 o'clock cutoff.
Understood. So we'd rather attach that to the 49,000 as opposed to the section 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's the area that's actually changing.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to amend section 2, the description to include the fire department backup vehicle, section 2, FEMA or matching share for laundry dryer.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rath.
I believe we have to have a motion to adopt
You're right.
first.
Apologize. Thank you.
So,
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to say to the Assistant Chief, great job at thinking outside the box and coming up with something creative in a way of saving us money and saving us wear and tear on equipment. I really appreciate that. And with that said, I will entertain a motion to adopt, or to send on to full council, rather.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Rath, second by Labutus.
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I
Rath.
could make a motion to amend the line item form that we have to be replaced with the line item form that we were just recently heated at the beginning of the committee.
Thank you, Mr.
To show the
Rath.
same dollar total, but a variety of different line items for section 2. For the vote. I assume we're voting on all of this all at once.
We'll come back. I need to add read section 1 as well, but we'll just do the amendment to section 2 first. Do I have a second? Second. So I've got a motion to amend by Mr. Rath, second by Mr. Labutus. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, with that, we'll take a vote to amend this legislation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So that passes 5-0. And now we'll, any further discussion on the legislation as amended? Mr. Frazier.
This question's for Nick, so I'm not going to. Sure.
Are you babbling? What did you say?
Mark Frazier, 20 West North Street, Newark, Ohio. So since it's called a chase vehicle, right? So EMS is always going to be the primary responder. We're not going to send the chase vehicle out by themselves to respond? Or what's the thought if we have all of our EMS units tied up and the chase vehicle available? Do you have any thoughts to that?
Well, this is where there's always going to be a gray area, like you mentioned, and that would be one example. So the chief and I talked about it. We also talked with the Deputy Chief Metzger and thought we cannot write out a policy that's going to cover every situation. So in that instance, we would rely on the station officers to make a decision. Everybody's out. There's an assist off the floor, which is, a non-emergent public service that we provide. What do we take? Do we take 2 people in that SUV? Or do we, all 3 of us, get in the fire truck in case there is a fire and we're it? If it were me, I would say, hey, everybody get in the ladder truck. We're going to go help this person with a ladder truck. There will be a learning curve for that, for sure. But statistically, 85% of what we do is medical.
Yep.
So if you err on that side, you're more likely to be right than you are not. But the stakes are pretty high. Yes.
Mr. Rath.
Don't you have, it seems to me like if you're going to take the chase vehicle, you're going to have to equip that with an awful lot of equipment. And most of that equipment is already on the ladder truck, is it not?
It depends. Are you thinking that it's going to...
I'm thinking that the squad is out, and you have another medic run.
Yep.
Now you're trying to debate, do I send the ladder truck with 3 people, or do I send the chase vehicle with 2? I'm thinking that there's a lot more medical equipment on the ladder truck to respond to a call, as opposed to what would be in the chase vehicle. And if you're going to equip the chase vehicle like an ambulance, it seems like an added expense and redundancy.
We would not totally duplicate. What we might do is scale back on what's in the ladder truck. Take a good portion of what's in the ladder truck right now, all the advanced life care things like the advanced drugs, the really expensive heart monitor, and put that in the SUV and keep basic things on the ladder truck.
So when that call does come in that we're talking about hypothetically, you've just made your decision significantly more difficult. It's going to depend on what potentially could possibly be needed on that run.
True, but the ladder truck won't be going by themselves. They'll be going to meet,
He's making it difficult.
they're going to be going to meet an EMS vehicle. So,
If you don't mind, I interject for a
Go ahead.
second. I think we're getting a little bit down into the weeds on this.
Sure.
More than we need for this meeting. Specifically, this vehicle is designed to reduce the wear and tear on the ladder truck. We're going to leave it up to our leadership to make the good calls, and a significant percentage of the time, the ladder truck will sit when it doesn't normally at this time. So that's the common goal. I trust that my leadership will do the right thing, and it is a work in progress. It's very difficult to hammer down anything specific because our work is so dynamic in nature to begin with. So we handle everything. So we're going to be using that SUV as much as we possibly can to reduce the wear and tear on the ladder truck. As far as getting into the weeds on what we're doing specifically on each call, we could stand here for 2 hours and debate that. However, I'm very confident in my leadership will make those appropriate calls at the time.
Thank
So
you,
we
Chief.
would just like your support in order to let us make that call.
And if I might add, it sounds like, bottom line, this just gives you a lot more flexibility in how you handle and respond to calls.
Well put. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well put.
Any other discussion from the audience?
I just have one more point.
Yep.
When it
Can
comes
you come to the podium, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Frazier, 20 West North Street, Newark, Ohio. When it comes to responding to an emergency, is there any need outside of the fire emergency for somebody to jump onto the EMS back to help with a critical cardiac patient or anything like that when they respond to these EMS scenes? Is there any time that you need 3 people in the back of the ambulance?
That's the whole reason for the chase vehicle. That's the whole reason for the fire truck. That's what we've been doing for years, and all they're doing is just changing a fire truck for this.
Yeah, the question is on the transportation side, if you needed to transport an extra person to the hospital.
So 2 people,
That's why you have the fire truck. You need
If we
an
could,
extra person there.
Mr. Marmy, do you want to come to the podium? I mean, we can recognize you next.
They're trying to debate about situations, and all they're trying to do is replace a vehicle that is more efficient. The whole reason why they need the vehicle, the fire truck, is because they need the extra body there. So it's about getting the extra body there, and the least effective or the least cost,
Prohibitive.
Yeah.
Most cost.
So that's all we're trying to do is reduce the cost of getting the extra body there during an emergency. Whether there's another fire or something else going on, we still need the extra body at that one place.
I guess the real question is what are the scenarios that could cause issues with?
You have those now with a fire truck.
Granted, but I mean, the
And they
question
make
that
the
I have-
decisions every single day on those critical situations where's it more effective for us to send our people? Can we leave these 2 here alone because we know we're not going to need that third body? Can we send them off to another run or something else is going on? And honestly, if there's a fire and there's somebody that needs help and there's 3 people that are needed, they're going to have to stay with that person.
And there's a lot of opportunity with the mutual assist reduction as well. So totally understand across the board. What I wanted to make sure I had clarity on is when are we pulling people out of that vehicle and putting them on separate vehicles? What does that do in the residual to the fire transportation? And what do we have to do for on-scene management is what my concern was.
We're going to handle
If that's not applicable, that's fine. I mean, that's just what my questions were revolved on. What are the scenarios where we have issues with the SUVs and people there?
We'll handle one call at a
Thank you,
time.
Mr. Frazier. Chief
We'll handle one call at a time and do the best we can with our decision-making for further emergencies at the time.
Thank you. Has everyone been heard who'd like to be heard? Director Rhodes, you good?
I just appreciate you guys considering that. And I also would like to thank the chair and the committee for allowing me to make a few changes that came in after the cutoff time. We worked very hard for that not to happen, but due to the time constraint at the end of the year and things of that nature, that's why I asked to have another form substituted.
Thank you. All right, with that, I'd like to put this to a vote to send it on to full council. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. So that passes 5-0. So next up, we will consider what should have been Section 1. I apologize again. This was an appropriation from the Capital Improvements Fund in the amount of $80,000 for spot work, paving, sidewalks, curbs, and alleys. Director Rhodes?
Yeah, if you could just strike the word spot work. I like the word paving, sidewalks, curbs. Because I don't want that money dedicated just to, potholes and things like that. I'd like to add that.
I think we'll need another amendment to do that. Okay.
Chair,
Mr. Rath.
motion to adopt.
Motion by Rath. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Labutus.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Rath.
motion to amend, eliminating the word spot work of.
Motion by Rath. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Labutus. Have any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of amending this section to remove the words spot work of? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. So that amendment passes 5-0. So now we'll discuss section 1 as amended. Anyone from the committee? So I would like to ask, do we have, as far as the paving sidewalks, do we have a list of where we're going with this money, or what? How are we addressing this?
We have some alleys that we have identified, yes. We have some curbs we've identified, and paving will go into our general paving.
Do we have a list of those, or where?
Mr. Moorhead does, yes.
Okay. Can we get a copy of that for council?
Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Marmee?
I guess just based upon the history and what the city does and does not do, typically the city is not responsible for sidewalks, typically. Now, if there are safety concerns, we've had some grants and things with safe routes for schools and things like that, where we've gotten involved in those types of situations. But really, a sidewalk is a property owner's responsibility, and therefore, if sidewalks are going to be done. Now, there have been cases where we've had to widen a street or make some improvements. Particularly, I remember Mount Vernon Road. We did some extensive work, and we literally tore up the sidewalks. So it wasn't the property owner's responsibility to put those back in. It was our responsibility. But as far as new sidewalks and things, it's not the city's. It's the property owner's responsibility to do that. We do have an ordinance that basically states that if there's a curb there, a sidewalk should be erected. However, it isn't. You're kind of grandfathered in. Some people are, because we put the curb in afterwards. But any new development, it's the property owner's responsibility to put in sidewalks. And so that's pretty much customary, unless it's a safety issue that we've gotten involved in a few issues, but it's not our primary responsibility.
Director Rose, if I may, is any of this money for new sidewalks, or is this just maintenance of existing sidewalks?
Maintenance.
Obviously, I see we've got curbs and alleys and other things as well.
This is going into a multi-vendor and PO. And occasionally there is sidewalk work, as Councilman Marmee explained, that we have to get into. This allows the engineer to be able to identify funds for work of that nature.
But not new sidewalks?
Right, that's correct.
Thank you. Any further discussion from the committee? Audience? Okay, with that, I'd like to put this to a vote to send it on to full council as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That will conclude the Capital Improvement Committee. Next up, full council at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.